Hey, Mark and AJ here from Whole Latte Love. We're going to take you through setting up a Crem 1 profiler. Really nice machine. AJ, what are we going to do?
Yeah, so this isn't a full review video on the profiler, and we have one of those already, and we'll put the link down in the video description. But in this video, we'll go over what's in the box, take you through a full menu tour, and go over the basics of pressure profiling on the machine.
Yeah, how to set it up like it was new, and we'll even dive into, how to import and export profiles and show you what those look like. But let's get right to it and take a look at what's in the box.
All right, let's go over what comes in the box with the Crem 1 profiler. Now you're gonna get this accessory kit, and when you open the box, it'll be sitting right on top. And it comes with everything inside, starting with a drain line. We'll show you how to hook that up in a minute. It hooks up right to the bottom of the machine. You've got one portafilter that comes with the machine. It has 2 spouts on it, but you can fit a single, double, whatever basket in there. The one that comes, or that I have in here right now, is the 18-gram basket, but you've also got a 7-gram single and a 14-gram. It's kind of the traditional Italian double. And then you get a blind filter for backflushing and checking brew pressure. Inside, you've also got a nice group brush, so you can kind of scrub under your group, get things nice and clean. You've got 8 Ernex cleaning tablets for backflushing. We'll go over that process later in the video as well. Inside, wrapped up in a little piece of paper here, you get a 3-hole steam tip. So it comes with a 2-hole tip on the machine, but you also get a 3-hole tip in case you want to use that instead. You get a nice kind of heavy-duty tamper here. It's pretty rare with machines like this, but it's got a nice Crem logo on it. It's got some weight to it, so nice tamper, fits the baskets right out of the box. And then wrapped in this plastic is a frothing pitcher, and I like these a lot because they have embossed measurements on the side, and you can see that from the inside as well. So as you're filling your milk, you know what level, how much you've got in there for frothing the right amount. And that's it. This is what comes in the box with the profiler.
All right, let's talk about initial setup. So, if you just got the machine out of the box or if you'd had it in storage, and we'll show you how to store it later, drain boilers, that kind of thing. So if you're gonna use the drain line, it does come with a drain line. You don't have to use this, but here's how you'd hook that up. I like to just tip the machine up, make sure your reservoir is out of there. Don't put your reservoir in quite yet. It's a press fit here. You don't need to put any clamps or anything around this, just make sure it's up there, nice and good. And what I do is just tilt the machine up a little bit like so, and run this back underneath like that. And then with this, you want to run this, you could just put it into your sink. Other than that, it's got to go into a standpipe, and this whole pipe has to stay lower than your drip tray here, otherwise it won't drain. All right, so next, let's get some water in here. We'll get this filling up. So I've already rinsed out my water reservoir. This is a reservoir-fed machine only. Have rinsed this out and put some water in here to get us going. I'm going to need some more. So this can only go in one way. It's got this little notch right here, and it's got this little roller switch that lets the machine know it's in there. So put that in. And of course, we're going to plug it in. So this plug, the cord does come with the machine. This plugs in and back here. So we'll get that plugged in. All right, from there, we're just going to turn the machine on. Now, it does take a few seconds for the machine, for the software to load up and do its thing, and you'll see the display start to do things here. There it goes, little progress bar. And then now it's going to sense it, so there's no water in the machine after we see the Crem logo here and get through our software version. And it's going to start filling that steam boiler. You can barely hear it because that pump is so quiet. It's that that DC motor connected to a rotary pump. You can barely hear it. So it's going to fill that up. Now I'm going to take this off. I'm going to kind of keep an eye on things because my water level is going to drop here as that is doing it. So I'm going to get a little water in there, and then I'm going to talk about some filtration options for this machine. I'm just going to refill a little bit here. There we go. So for water filtration, a couple options. There's this BWT Best Save pad filter. So this you just drop right into the reservoir. It uses ion exchange to reduce calcium, replace it with magnesium. Only thing with this is it's got to be in there to work effectively. It has to be in the water for 12 hours. So if you do a lot of brewing, this might not be the best option for you. I got to keep an eye on this here. I can barely tell that it's filling, but I can barely hear that pump going. Still going. Another option is this BWT Penguin pitcher here. This uses that same ion exchange technology, but this filters the water really quickly. You just put it in the top, then you can just keep pouring. I'm going to refill again a little more. There we go. All right. And that should probably be enough. I will keep an eye on that. So we're just waiting for that boiler to fill. So we're getting a little hourglass going here that's letting us know. And then once it's full, it's going to let us know what the next step is, which is to raise the lever over here to fill, because you have two boilers here. So we have to fill the brew boiler as well. Checking my water. Still got enough. I'll get a little bit more in there.
So if I'm running a drain line from the machine, what do I need to do to the drip tray?
Oh yeah, let's take a look at that. Thanks, AJ. Okay, so what you need to do to the drip tray here is it is pre-drilled. It's got a plug in it there, right there. So you'd unscrew this plug. Yep, let me show you that, yep. And then it'll open up the hole here, and then it will drain right into here, and then that'll go out the hose. Something else to notice about this drip tray. It is actively monitored. So when the water gets up to this level in here, that you'll get a warning in the display telling you it's full. And actually, the machine won't even let you brew if the drip tray is full. So you can't overflow. I like that. That's nice. But now it's telling me in the display, and again, this is a startup. You don't have to do this every time. Once the machine is started up, you won't have to do this process anymore unless you were to drain it out again. We'll put our drip tray in, and it's just telling me to lift the lever. So I'm going to lift the lever. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do this so it's a little less messy. I'm going to put my portafilter in because we're going to want that in when the machine is heating up anyways. So we'll get that in and just lift the lever. And the display told us what to do. Now, notice it's counting down from 90 seconds. It has to run through this entire 90 seconds to make sure that that brew boiler has water in it before it'll start heating. So if this happens to get interrupted, like if you ran out of water, the machine will let you put more water in, but it's got to do this full 90 seconds. And you see water starting to come through. This is just making sure that that boiler is full. And then once we get through that 90 seconds, the machine is going to start heating. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Again, the filtering option, something like this BWT pad filter, this is a lot better if you're not using a lot of brewing, like if you fill it up at night, then in the morning you're going to do a couple shots. This will work great. Or this Penguin pitcher, which uses the same technology, the ion exchange, and of course carbon filtration to get rid of chlorination, that kind of thing. And they make great drinking water too. So we're at about 33 seconds. And as this happens, now I do have my portafilter in there, a little less messy, dripping through here. You could put something, a lot of times I'll put something in here to catch water when it's doing something like this. But again, you do want your portafilter in there, because when this machine heats up, this group is going to get really hot too, and it's going to heat up the portafilter as well, which is part of getting good brew temperatures. And this machine does give really nice brew temperatures, down to 6, 5, 4, and we're almost there. And again, you only have to do this when you initially start the machine. So now we can put that lever down. And you'll notice here we have, in the display, we have two temperatures. We're set, this is the steam boiler temperature. You can see it's cold, but you can see that little icon right next to it. That means that boiler is heating. We do have this set to steam boiler priority, so that's going to heat up first, and then the brew boiler will heat up. You can change that in the menus. We'll show you how to do that if you should want to do that. But that's the basic setup now. About 20, 25 minutes after doing that, the machine will be all heated up, ready to go. Of course, you can set, and we'll show you how to do this as well. You can set on and off times so that if you want your machine to come on at 6, so it's ready at 6:30, you can do that so it can always be ready and waiting for you. But that's the basic setup.
All right, so we're going to go over the Barista menu on the machine. This is all of the commonly accessed features within the profiler that you can change more often. There's some more hidden menu options that are in the technical menu we'll go over in a little bit, but this is the more commonly accessed ones. But first, on the home screen here, you've got 4 different buttons. Top left one here is power. The top right gets you into that Barista menu. Bottom left is a one-touch for eco mode. If I turn that on, it enables eco mode. We'll go over in a little bit what that means in a little farther detail. You've got 2 temperatures here. The top one is your brew boiler temperature. The bottom is your steam boiler temperature. And you'll see that little icon next to the brew boiler right now. That's showing me that the heating element is active. So the PID is sending signal to the brew boiler to heat up, and that's the little pulse of energy it's getting when you see that icon. So let's go into the Barista menu and go through what the different icons mean. And it may seem a little overwhelming at first seeing all these icons that not knowing exactly what settings they relate to, but once you use the machine a couple times, you really get a feel for what the different icons mean, and it becomes kind of second nature. So first one here is gradual soft pre-infusion. This will come set to on with a default of 2 seconds. If you wanted to, you could turn that off with the X. I like leaving it on. If I press the arrow, then I can change how much time that takes. And what that is changing is the speed, the amount of time it takes to ramp up to full pressure. So if I set it to 15 seconds, it'll take 15 seconds from the pump once you lift your group lever to ramp up to full pressure. If I lock that in with the top right button, I can go back. My next setting here is for my boiler temperatures, and I've got 2 there. I've got the brew boiler and the steam boiler. My brew boiler, if I wanted to change the temperature, it's these bottom 2 buttons here. Like let's say I wanted to go up, and what's nice here is it'll show you your temperature in both Celsius and Fahrenheit. You'll see as I'm changing it that both numbers change. So we'll go over in a minute how to change your preferred units, but it's nice that you can kind of see both of them here. So if I wanted to get it around 200 Fahrenheit, I could lock it in right there. Press that top one to go back a level. Go into my steam boiler and you can do the same thing. 257 Fahrenheit is the max. That'll give you your max steam pressure when you're steaming milk as well. I'll go down just for the sake of it, lock that in there. Press back, and go to the next menu. So here's that eco that I talked about earlier. And there's actually 2 different settings in here. The top one is for eco, and the bottom one is for standby. And what eco means, you can set a time with that. So if I set it to, let's say 2 hours. After 2 hours of inactivity, the machine will enter eco mode, which means that it will lower your boiler temperatures to a lower level. It won't turn them completely off, but it'll lower them to a lower temperature so that if you come to use the machine next time, it's not all the way cold, but it'll heat up quickly. It's still saving energy when you're not using it, but it's at a state, it's kind of an in-between where it'll heat up quickly if you do want to use it. This bottom one is standby, and that needs to be set at least an hour different from eco. So if my eco is 2 hours, standby needs to be 3 or more, and that is, after that amount of time, the boilers will power off. So even more energy saving. So like for this, I would go to eco mode after 2 hours, I would go to standby after 6. But if you remember, there was that button on the main screen that I can enter eco immediately if I just press that. After that, you've got, you can turn off power to either boiler. Again, brew boiler, steam boiler. So if I'm only pulling espresso, I'm not steaming anything, I will go down to my steam boiler and turn that off. I'm gonna leave it on for now, but that's how you would turn it off. After that, you've got your date and time. This is in military time, it's a 24-hour clock. Pretty self-explanatory, time of day, day of week, and your date. We'll go over in a little bit how to change the date format. I've got month, day, year, but you can change that to day, month, year, year, month, day, whatever you want. After that, you've got your schedule for auto on and off throughout the day. You can set this for once a day for every day of the week. Check mark means it's enabled. And then you can scroll through and you can see your schedule for each day. I've already got times programmed for Sunday and Monday. If I go to Tuesday, it's blank. I can set a time for the machine to turn on. Let's say I want it to turn on at 6. Remember, that's 6 a.m. by default because it's a 24-hour clock. And maybe turn off at noon, which would be 12. So now on Tuesday, I've locked that in. It will turn on at 6, turn off at 12. If I wanted to, let's say I'm going away on vacation and I wanted all of these auto-ons to not be active, there's 2 things I could do. One is take this check mark, turn it to an X so that it's disabling the on-off feature altogether. Or another option is just flip my power switch off. For this feature to work, your power switch needs to be on. So if you are doing auto on-off, just leave your power switch on. If you don't want it to be active, you can turn this off. After that, so this is how long your shot timer will show on the screen after you finish brewing. Set to 10 seconds right now. Let's say I think that's a little long. I'll take it down to 5. So after I lower my group lever after brewing a shot, my shot timer will persist on the screen for 5 seconds. After that, you've got your counters, and these are your machine counters. They're stored internally, and there's 2 different sets of them. On the left here, you have your total counters since the machine was first used, since it first arrived. This top number is the amount of liters of water that have gone through the machine, and that's calculated by using the flow meter within the profiler. The bottom number is the amount of coffees that you've brewed in the life of the machine. And the machine counts a coffee as 5 seconds of brewing or less, 5 seconds of brewing or more. So if you're just doing a quick flush, that wouldn't count, but if you brew for 5 seconds or more, that goes towards that. And those numbers are not resettable. But if you go over to this other icon, these are your counters that are resettable. So it's kind of like a trip odometer in a car. Since my last reset, I've put 11 liters of water through. I've brewed 109 coffees. If I wanted to reset that, I could with this icon right here. But going back a couple levels, after our counters, we've got our units here. This is Fahrenheit or Celsius. I'll just leave it in Fahrenheit. After that, here's that format for your date on the machine. So I've got MDY, which is month, day, year. If I want to change that, I can do day, month, year, or year, month, day, but I'm just going to leave it at month, day, year. Next up, this icon is for your USB drive that you can plug into the back of the machine, and there's a few different options with that. One is to upload a custom logo to your screen. The next one is a clipboard with a down arrow. That's to import pressure profiles. If you're importing profiles, just keep in mind, even if you're importing just one profile, it will overwrite all of the memory, the 5 profiles that are stored in the machine. So if you're importing one, it will overwrite all 5 of yours. So if you have something on here you don't want to overwrite, export it first, save it. And to do that, it's this other icon with the clipboard with the up arrow, and the up arrow is to export. That'll export to your USB drive. If you want to save that profile or share it with a friend, that's the way to do it. If I go back here, my last icon here is for the Barista knob resolution. So the knob on the side of the machine you're using when you're pressure profiling, you can set it from 0.2 bar to 0.5 bar. And that is how sensitive it is. It's the bar pressure change per click of the knob while you're pressure profiling. So if you want a little more control, maybe 0.2 is the way to go with that. If I get back and I cycle through again, it gets me back to that GSP, which was at the start of the chapter. So I've made it all the way through my menu. You can cycle through again if you want, or press home. It gets you back to your main screen. And that is everything in the Barista menu.
All right, we're going to show you 3 different ways to run a extraction on the profiler here. We're going to do it like there was no pressure profiling at all. That's one. Then we'll do a pressure profile manually and save it. Then we'll run a save profile, and we'll show you how that goes. Not actually brewing coffee here, just letting water flow out so you can see what happens here. So way number 1, just lift that lever like on any other machine. Now I do have gradual soft pre-infusion set at 15 seconds on this, so it's going to ramp up. Notice how quiet that motor and pump is. You see in our screen there, which we got a shot for you, we have the shot timer running there and the amount of water. We have a lot of water going through right here because we're not actually brewing a shot. But then when I'm done with my shot, just put the lever down, and that's all there is to it. Now I do have my screen persistence set at 10 seconds here, so the 21-second shot time and the 259 milliliters of water went through, that persisted for 10 seconds. All right, now the fun starts. Now we're going to do a manual profile using the knob here. Again, we're going to show you the screen so you can see what's happening. So first step to running a manual profile is starting a setting pressure. So to do that, just push the knob in. You can see in the screen it's telling me to lift the lever, but I'm going to adjust my starting pressure. So right now I'm setting that starting pressure, and I want to go real low here. So I'm going to start at 1.5 bar pressure, then lift the knob. And you can see on our screen there we've got a shot timer, our current actual pressure, the amount of water that's gone through, and then down below there is our target pressure. And now if I want to adjust the pressure during the extraction, I just turn the knob. It's clockwise to go to higher. You can see I'm going up to a higher pressure. And I'm up to 7.5, 8 bar, 8.2. And then I can bring it back down if I want. I want to end that shot with a real low flow for some reason. So I'm good with that. And okay, and then to stop the shot, just put the lever down. Now, if I want to save this, all I do is just turn the knob to the position 1 of 5 that I want to save it. I'm going to save it at that recipe 8 location. So now press that and I'm good to go. So that now is saved. Now let's say I wanted to change the name of that. I'd go back home here, I'd turn to that 8, recipe 8 there, press and hold the knob in until I get the cursor there. And if I like that, I'm just going to change it to recipe 9. So I'm just pressing through those. And then I'll just turn the dial here and I'll change that to 9, press, and now that's saved as recipe 9. Now if I want to take a look at what that recipe is, I press the info button up here, and there's our profile. That's a graph of our profile. On the vertical axis there is the bar of pressure used. On the horizontal axis there is the amount of water went through, a lot of water in this one, in centiliters. Then up top, the name of our recipe and the duration that that recipe ran. And if I want to get out of this, I get right out of that, and I can go back home. Now I could, operate the machine with a lever just manually, or I could go and select a profile to run. All right, so let's take a look at how you run a saved profile. It's really easy. Just turn the barista knob here to the profile we want to run. Again, there's 5 in here. I call this recipe 9, but there's 5 positions. I'm going to run the one that we just did. So I just go to that one, press the knob. Then the screen, it tells me to run the lever, or raise the lever here. So I'm going to raise the lever. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, let's just take a look again. So you can see what that profile is. There's a graph of it. Okay, that's the one I want to do. See my target time there, 35 seconds. So now, just to run that profile, all I do is just raise that lever, and the machine's going to do the rest. You remember we started out really slow, then we brought the pressure up, and you can see a countdown of the volume of water there over on the right, at about 200 milliliters. My clock's running, it's showing me all my pressures. Now what's going to happen when this gets down to just 5 milliliters of water remaining, because it's got that flow meter measuring things, it's going to tell me to lower the lever here. So I'm waiting for that. We'll see the icon pop up that tells me to lower the lever. When we get to 5, there it is. And then I'm just going to lower the lever. If I didn't lower the lever before it reached 0, the pump stops automatically. It's always a good idea really to lower that lever before the pump stops. Not a big deal if you don't. You're just going to want to run, maybe like a little flush before you do your next one to refill the system after the flow meter. So that's it, and I'm done with that. I can go back home and I could start over again here and run that profile again, or any of my other profiles, just by selecting them, pressing the button, and raising the lever. That's all there is to it. All right, let's show you how to get into the service or technician's menu here. If the machine is on like this, all I need to do is press and hold the upper left button until we see off in the display. You might have already been there. But now you see we have the T with the gear around it. That's for the technician's menu. So to get into there, just press that button. Now it wants a password. The default password on these machines is 111. You don't have to put in the first one, so I just put in 1, and then it's going to autofill the rest. So I don't have to put those in. Now, right here, I can, if I want, change this name right here. Right now, I have my Crem, but I can change this if I wanted to. So you can use the buttons here to change the characters, and you have full character set available. You can also use a barista knob. So right now, I'm turning the barista knob off camera there, so you can change those. When you're satisfied with what you have in that position, you just return through those. And when you get to the end, you're done. So you can change the name there to whatever you'd like. Next up here is Eco Mode. So we have Eco Mode enabled, as denoted by the little check mark there. If you want to turn Eco Mode off, so it's not available from the main screen, we'd set the X here. I do want it available, so I'm going to leave that checked. And then we go to the next item. This is setting the actual temperatures that the boilers will go to. So over here with the coffee cup, that's the coffee boiler temperature, and the steam boiler temperature. This is what the boilers are going to drop to when Eco Mode is enabled. So right now I'm set to, and it shows you both the Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature. Right now I'm 169.7 Fahrenheit for the coffee boiler. That's the temperature it'll go to again if I do eco mode, but you can set these however you like. I don't know, I like the 169.7, so we'll keep that. If I press eco again, then we'll be able to do the same thing for the steam boiler. So we can set the temperature that it's going to drop to. Again, it's showing you Celsius and Fahrenheit and changing those at the same time. So I like the 105, so the 105 centigrade, so we'll leave that there. To get out of this, just hit eco again. Then we can move on to our next menu item. See the gear here with the P. These are our PID settings. Now, generally, don't want to change these ever at all. Bad things can happen, but I'll show you there are PID settings for both boilers, but I'll show you what they are just so you know. So this is for the coffee boiler, so I press the coffee button over here. The P is 1.0, and if you need to, or 0.0, I is 0.01. If you needed to adjust these, if you messed them up, you use the little buttons down here. D is 2.0. B is 2 degrees C or 4 degrees Fahrenheit. And E, which is the boiler offset temperature, is 9.2 degrees centigrade or 16.6 Fahrenheit. Again, really no reason to change those at all. If you want to get back, you got the same stuff over in the steam boiler. I'll show you what those are. P, again, 4.0, I 0.07, D 2.2, B 5C or 9F, and there's no offset in that one. So to get out of these, we'd continue on. All right, and here's where we can enable or disable pressure profiling. Right now it is enabled. So if I wanted pressure profiling not to be available on this machine for a user who doesn't know the password, I'd go here and change this to an X. I do want the pressure profiling enabled, so we'll leave that like that. Enter to return. Now here, this is our starting pressure for a pressure profile. Right now, so the minimum pressure we can use in a profile is 1.5 bar. For some reason, I want to change that. I can turn that up. I believe 5 is the max, yep, and then it goes back around to 1.5. I want those really super low pressure, really long pre-infusions available, so I'm going to leave that set at 1.5 and confirm that. Here, this is for the flow meter type that's being used. The machines that we have use the B-type flow meter, so no reason to change that. The other option is A, don't use A, set that to B. The machine will come set like this for you, so you don't have to go in and do that. All right, these are minimum and maximum voltages for the motor that's driving our pump in there. Minimum's 12 volts, max 24 volts. No reason to change that, so we'll leave that right where it is. Okay, here's where we can set some alerts. So we can set it by the amount of water that's gone through the machine right here. What this will do is when we reach a certain amount of water through the machine, like 50 liters, we'll get an alert on screen. So we can set that like if we had a water filter that had a 50 liter capacity, or if we wanted to perform some maintenance at 50 liters, we could do that. And you can change this to whatever you'd like as far as how much water goes through. It's the flow meter in the machine that measures the amount of water that has been through the machine. So I want it at 50 and back out of there. We can also set it by the number of brew cycles. Right now it's set to 0, but we can get an alert, say, after 50 brew cycles. Now, a brew cycle on this machine, you have to be running for 5 seconds. So short little flushes and stuff, they don't count as a brew cycle. But let's say I want to do a back flush after, I like back flushing with detergent after 50 brew cycles, so I will set that alert. And we can back out of that. All right, next up, this is for boiler priority. So you can have either the steam or the coffee boiler heat first. I want my steam boiler to heat first, and that's how the machine is set right now with that icon. If I wanted the coffee boiler to heat first, I'd set it like that and then confirm it. I do want the steam boiler to heat first. There is a heat exchanger in the steam boiler which feeds the brew boiler. So I want that steam boiler heated up first, so I'm going to leave that just like that, but you can change it if you like. Next up, this is a reservoir fed only machine. This is a reservoir icon. We do want that checked so the machine knows it's operating from reservoir. This is the only way you should set this machine. I'm set with a check mark there. Next up, this is how long the machine will continue brewing after it senses low water in the reservoir. I'm set to 15 seconds for that. So if in the red there is a water sensor, a capacitive sensor alongside the reservoir, if it senses low water, the machine will continue to brew your shot, so you won't lose it, for 15 seconds. You can change this if you want and make it longer. I'm going to leave mine at 15, so I'll set to 15 and then confirm. All right, next up in the menu here, this is the voltage that's going to be used for the motor. The range here is 12 to 24. As you go up in voltage, the motor can make more noise. I like mine nice and quiet, and it does fine just at 12 volts, so I'm going to leave that right at 12, but you can change this if you want, but I'm going to leave mine at 12, and really no reason to change that, so I'm going to leave mine at 12, and we continue on. This is for the steam boiler water level probe sensitivity. You can see mine right now is set in the middle. That's probably where you want to leave it. You can change this. You can make it more sensitive by going up like that, or less sensitive. For almost everybody, there's absolutely no reason to change this. You know, if you're using super soft water for some reason and you wanted that probe to be more sensitive, you'd set it up that way. For just about everybody, you're going to want to leave that right how the machine's going to come to you, set right to the middle. And then we go on here. This is where we can enable the machine to tell it that we want it to do that like it hadn't been used before, like it was starting up, like the boilers had no water in them. So if you had drained the boilers out and wanted the machine to go through its filling routine to make sure that those boilers are full before it starts heating them up, you'd go to the check here, press enter to confirm it, and then the machine, next time you start it up, is going to go through the filling routine like you saw earlier in the video. I don't need to do that, so I'm going to leave it at X and hit enter to confirm. And we'll move on here. Here's where you can upload or download settings from the machine off to the USB stick if you wanted to do that. So you can switch between upload and download using these two buttons. And last up, here's where you can change the password. Again, the default password is 111. So if I want to make a change, I just put in the numbers that I want here. I want to leave mine at 111, so I'll put 1 there. And I already have my 1s there, so I'm going to leave those right there and enter through that. And now we're back to the start. Now we're still in the technician menu, so if you wanted to, you could use this key and go right back through any of the settings we've already done. If you're done in here, and again, you probably only ever go in here, I don't know, maybe once or you know, not often at all. There's really not a lot of reasons to go in here. I'm going to go home, so now I'm off. I want my machine back on. You can see while you're doing this, our boilers dropped in temperature a little bit. The boilers do not heat when you're in the technician's menu. You can see also, because I set that alert for 50 brew cycles, which I'm beyond, I do have the alert right here telling me to, hey, you should go do your back flushes that you wanted to do after 50 brewing cycles. So that's the technicians or service menu on the Crem 1 profiler. The profiler has a port for a USB memory stick on the back of the machine so you can export profiles. Once exported, you can save that file for future use, edit the file, and change things like profile names, volume of brew water, target extraction time, even the pressures used in a profile. More on that coming up. Now, a few simple requirements and conventions when using a USB memory stick with a machine. First, the memory stick needs to be formatted for PC. I have to be working on a Mac computer, so I use the disk utility on my Mac to format in MS-DOS FAT. When exporting a profile, the stick should be empty, so no other files on the stick. When exporting, you'll get a single .txt file which contains all 5 profiles currently on your machine. Exported files, they have the file name expone.txt. When importing, the profile should be the only file on the stick. When importing profiles, all 5 profiles are imported and overwrite any existing profiles on the machine. Imported files must have the file name impone.txt. So if you export a file, make some modifications, and want to import, you must change the file name to impone.txt. To export profiles, insert the empty USB stick into the machine. The connection is behind a rubber cover near the power cord connection. In the Barista menu, navigate to the icon for the USB memory stick and select using the lower left key. Then use the arrow keys to navigate to this icon with the arrow pointing up. Press the upper right key to start the export. An hourglass displays briefly, followed by a check mark, and the display returns to the USB menu. After that, you can remove the memory stick from the machine. You can open this file in a text editing application. Before doing that, it's a good idea to save a copy of the file to another location. That way you could use the file in the future or share it with other Crem 1 Profiler users. If saving multiple profiles, you're probably going to want to change the file names temporarily. Just remember, you'll need to change the file name to impone.txt before importing to the machine. Here's what the file looks like when opened in a text editor. The file includes all 5 profiles that were on the machine. Even if there was never a profile saved at one of the 5 available presets, you'll still see one for that location. It's just going to be filled in with zeros for all the parameters other than the name. Now, you can edit variables in the profile, so let's take a look at the structure. If you do edit a profile, make sure to keep the structure the same. The first line is type. This should always be left at P. Next is index. The number here is 0. This represents the profile's position. There are 5 positions, so index numbers are 0 through 4. If editing a profile, do not change the index numbers. Next up is name. This you can edit if desired. Names are limited to 8 characters, including spaces. Mine is named Light R, and I'm going to change it to R Light. Below that is ml. Mine reads 110. That's the total volume of water used in this profile. When the flow meter in the machine records 110 milliliters of water used in an extraction, the pump will stop. So let's say I wanted the shot to run a bit longer, so I'll change this to 120. Notice for this parameter, there are 2 spaces prior to the first digit of the volume, so keep those spaces when you edit. Next up is time. Here again, 2 spaces prior to the first digit. The time will show in the display when running the profile, but it has no actual effect on the extraction. It's just a target time. It does not stop the pump. It's just there for user reference, so you can edit that if you like. Below time, we have 60 steps of pressure. Each step represents 4 milliliters of water flow. So pressure can be changed for every 4 milliliters of water flow. In this profile, brew pressure is at 1.7 bar for steps 0 through 9. In steps 10 through 17, pressure ramps up to 5.3 bar and holds there until step 24. Then at step 26, pressure drops to 1.5 bar and stays there to finish the shot. So let's say I wanted to ramp down sooner. I could edit steps 24 and 25 to 1.5 bar, and I'd get that lower pressure 8 milliliters of flow sooner. So you can edit any of the 5 profiles in the file like this. Just be sure to keep the format of the information the same as you make changes to prevent problems. Once done, save the file, and if you haven't already, change the name to impone.txt. To upload a file, copy it to an empty USB stick and insert that stick in the machine. In the Barista menu, navigate to the icon for the USB memory stick and select using the lower left key. Then use the arrow key to navigate to this icon with the arrow pointing down. Press the upper right key to start the transfer. You'll see an hourglass as the file loads and then a check mark when the download is complete. And that's it. The profiles are now loaded on your machine. Just remember, when you load profiles, you will be overwriting all the profiles currently on the machine. So do be careful you don't overwrite profiles currently on the machine that you want to keep by accident. And that's how you export, edit, and import profiles on the Crem 1 Profiler.
All right, so let's go over backflushing your machine. It's one of the most important maintenance procedures that you should perform on a regular basis. And there's 2 kinds. There's daily backflushing and weekly. Let's start with daily. So one thing you'll need, you've got your portafilter that comes with your blind basket here. You can either kind of pry this open, or we sell this little portafilter ejector tool that can get under the lip there and pull that out. Pop in this. So on your daily backflushing, you don't need any cleaning products in here or anything. You just pop that in the group with your blind basket, and you're gonna raise your lever for 10 seconds. Luckily, you've got a nice timer built into the machine, so that's gonna count to 10. And once it does, I will drop the lever and wait for 5 seconds. And we've set our persistence of our shot timer to be 5 seconds, so we've got kind of another built-in counter there. So that just went away. Gonna go up for 10 more seconds, and you're gonna repeat this 5 times. I'm not gonna show you all 5, but we'll go through 2 of them, and this is kind of your daily back flushing. Obviously, only if you've used the machine. If it sat there all day and you didn't use it, you don't need to do this. But you repeat that 5 times, and you'll be good to go. So then on a weekly basis, you're gonna use a cleaning product with it. So I say weekly, but that also means kind of 40 to 50 brew cycles. So depending on your use, it could be shorter or longer than a week. But when you do that, you could either use these cleaning tablets that come with the machine, or a product called Cafiza that we use for back flushing, for kind of cleaning different parts of the machine. You can fill up some water, put some Cafiza in it, drop your baskets and it'll clean. Really good at cleaning off coffee oils and goop in there. But I'll just use a tablet for today. So just kind of pop that through, put it in your filter. If I can get this in there. And this is gonna be the same procedure. It's gonna be 10 seconds up, 5 seconds down, and repeat 5 times. And then we'll flush everything after that. So now when I lower this, you'll start to see, you'll see some kind of soapy stuff coming from the 61 discharge there. And that's all right. Sometimes, depending on your machine usage, it'll be kind of brown and look a little grosser, but completely normal. Coffee oils, coffee gunk gets in there, and this is just cleaning everything out in there. I went a little long, nothing wrong with that. We'll do one more with the cleaning solution in there. 10 seconds up. And this is cleaning out everything in your system, cleaning out the coffee oils, whatever you need to just keep your machine up and running nice and hygienic and appropriately. So let's say that was 5. It was only 3, but let's say it's 5. The next step is, you've still got some soap in here. I'm just gonna kind of wipe that out. You've got your group brush that comes with the machine. I'll just kind of do a quick little rub of my shower screen in there with that. And then you're gonna repeat the process 2 to 3 times without any cleaning solution in there. And this will just rinse all the soap and cleaning product that was in there out. So as I do this, even though there's nothing in there, you'll probably see some soap come out of here. It's still a little foamy, a little coffee oily. And that's why we're doing this twice, is to just rinse the system, because you don't really want cleaning product in your coffee. So we'll do this probably 2 more times. 7, 8, 9, 10. It's already starting to clean up a bit, so we'll do 1 more. And again, this procedure every week, every 40 to 50 brew cycles, something like that. Now we're pretty much nice and clean there. If you wanted to be extra cautious, you could brew a shot of espresso and dump it and just kind of sacrifice that. But for the most part, everything is clean, good to go, and that is back flushing the profiler.
All right, let's show you how to adjust the brew pressure on the machine. You really shouldn't need to do this, but I'll show you how. It's gonna come from us, we set them all up to 9 bar. And I've got a little trick for doing this if you're alone and maybe a little risky. There's always a friend can help with this. I'll show you that in a minute. So you are gonna want your back flush disc. We'll put that in, and you'll need a screwdriver. Straight blade there. So my little trick, because the adjustment is like under here, so it's kind of hard to adjust when it's sitting on a counter like this. But what you can do with this machine, and if you're gonna do this, be really, really careful. Again, best to have a friend. But if you hang this leg off a counter, put this one right up to the edge and the back one right up to the edge. And be careful now. Then we can get to the adjustment, the pump adjustment, which is right here with that screwdriver. So I'm just gonna turn that in there. I can't really see what I'm doing, make sure it's in the slot. There it is. Okay, then we're gonna, also best to turn off your gradual soft pre-infusion with this. So we're just gonna raise the lever. That way the machine comes up to pressure right away. And you see we're at 9 bar there, and that's where the machine's gonna come from us. Now if you wanna change that, if you wanna decrease the pressure, when you decrease it, you're gonna turn counterclockwise. It's about half a turn per bar. You see I'm at 8 now. If I want like a full turn up, I'm at about 10. But we want to be at 9, so I'll bring that back down to 9. And looks pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So that's where we put it. We put the lever down, and we're good to go. Again, if you're gonna do it like this, be really careful. It's fairly stable, but always best to have a friend helping you out with this one. The other option is, you can just say, hey, I'm over a bar, under a bar, and if you about a half a turn of that, so you can just stop the machine, tilt it up, make sure you take your reservoir off and empty your drip tray before you do that, make your adjustment, and then try it again. And that's how you adjust the brew pressure on the profiler.
So lastly, we're going to go over how to drain your boilers. There's two different boilers in the machine, steam boiler and brew boiler, so we're going to drain them separately. I'll show you both processes, and we will start with the steam boiler. So to do this, you want to make sure your machine is up to temperature because you need that extra temperature, that extra pressure in the steam boiler to force the water out of the hot water wand. But we are going to turn the machine off because if you try and do this with the machine on, it's going to try to refill your boiler over and over. It won't work. So machine's off. And it's hot. I just open my hot water valve and it'll start to drain. I'll come over here because that's kind of loud. So let's talk about why you would want to drain your boilers. You're gonna do this if you're putting them in long-term storage or shipping them. Let's say you're moving and they just need to be empty. It's better to ship machines without water in them, or if you're storing them somewhere cold, you don't want it freezing in there and damaging anything. Or if you just want to kind of refresh the water in the boilers, just kind of make things fresh in there for whatever reason, you would empty your boilers. It won't take too long before that starts to kind of sputter out just like that, right on cue. And right when it stops spitting out water, I will turn that off. So steam boiler is now empty, and we'll move on to the brew boiler. To do this, there's a valve on the underside of the machine that we have to switch. I'll pull my drip tray off to show you where that is. Make sure I don't have any water in this to tip on myself. And if you look under the machine, there is a valve for emptying the brew boiler. You don't want to actually adjust that while it's up because water will go everywhere. But just to show you where it is, you do want your drip tray in place while you're emptying this because that's where it goes. You also want to open up your brew lever, your group lever while you're doing this so it doesn't create a vacuum and you can actually drain that boiler. So all I'm going to do is reach under the machine to that valve, open it, and that will start emptying into my tray. You've got a 1.5 liter brew boiler and a 1.9 liter drip tray, so there is plenty of room in there to empty the entire boiler into your tray. I won't make you wait around for the whole thing to empty, but that is how you would empty your boilers on the profiler. So the one thing you're going to want to do after you drain your boilers is go into the tech menu and enable the install startup. So to do that, flip on your machine, hold the power button, tech menu, and enter your password 111. Scroll over to the icon we talked about in that section of the video, which looks like this, and change that X to a check mark. That is enabling that install startup. Go back to home, and then the next time you power on your machine, it will prompt you to refill the boilers just like we talked about in that chapter of this video.
All right, so that was a really extensive look at the really cool Crem 1 profiler. And as we always say,
yeah, if you have any questions, comments about the machine, leave a comment down below and we'll get back to you.
All right, I'm Mark, that's AJ. Thanks for watching, guys. We hope you come on back soon for more of the best on everything coffee from Whole Latte Love.